my daughter, it's her favorite Disney character. So this is special for me too. And one of the things that she said that because she liked it, it's because it's not a princess. It's just it was a strong girl. And that's what I love also about this character. But also I love how respectful are with the names, with locations, with history.
Like the cultural trust was a part of helping to set up that world to make sure, yes,
Yes.
I'd say yes, yeah. And I think there's 13 members of our the Oceanic Cultural Trust, and each of us have our own areas of expertise, and we come from different segments of the Pacific Island community, of the Oceanic community, and so we're all able to kind of put our voices in there and give our perspectives. For me, as the linguist, kind of helping to provide terminology, names of places and people, new characters from Moana 2 especially. Yeah, I did feel like we had a voice in helping to shape that world.
Yeah,
I was
I definitely agree. I think in my involvement in the first film and in this one, I mean, I think it was pretty much the same thing, just contributing to sort of a historical understanding of this period and trying to kind of figure out what makes sense in this time to show in the film. And then also, I think we all work really hard to try to make sure that they are, if elements of culture are presented, they're presented in ways that our people that are alive today will understand. So it's also a bit of sort of translation into a contemporary, kind of representation that makes sense.
So working on the first one as well as the second, my contribution was, for lack of a better word, choreography. And that's, I guess, that kind of parallels Grant's world in a way, Dr. Grant's world in a way, because it's another type of communication of language through the body, which is very much important in many barefoot cultures. But for me, just representing Polynesia, it's trying to gather all the different shapes and nuances throughout Polynesia, but also it's fun because it's through animation. And I'm a big kid anyway, so I'm trying to imagine kids watching this and practitioners watching this and trying to find a common language, a common ground.
But also, two details that for me are super important. That it has transcend the movie, and I know because I just say my daughter is super fan of Moana. It's the costume, the dressing, and the songs. Those two things are transcended the movie for me. And now in this second movie, we have more characters, more dances, more music, and more names. First of all, I wanna speak about the costume, the dress, and how important are to be represented in a right way.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a long, I mean, I feel like that was a hard, long part of both films because, especially the first one, I think, because we were really trying to find elements that worked for them in this time again. Certain things have to be made out of certain materials and then also, certain kind of elements of adornment in our cultures today maybe don't have these things anymore. And so you're also trying to kind of keep those things in mind as you're figuring out what the costuming is. But I would say what I was proud of that we did in the first one and coming into the second is really do a lot of research on what types of adornment, when things are appropriate to be worn, when they shouldn't be worn, different ways that these people would be dressed, and in this time, it was hard. I think it was definitely one of the difficult things that we had to do, but I think it was also very fun, and you see that in the way that they look. I think on the screen.
And I think too that trying to capture, because the Pacific is such a diverse area, right? How to encapsulate, yes, what is like what was representative of the whole region, right? In its diversity. How can we be specific and use things appropriately that are respectful to that individual culture, say Samoa, for example, but then also have elements we woven in there that would also be resonant with Tahitians or even say Solomon Islanders or Fijians, for example. And that's a really hard balance to find, in such a diverse area of the Pacific.
I think with the garb that we wear, it's like kind of exactly what our doctors said. It's finding representation, even if it's in just a small detail to the more obvious. And I think it's a beautiful thing because it's like weaving together a lei. It's like laying down the bark of our tree and cohesively putting it together. That's essentially what we were able to do as Polynesians anyway. It's what we do. It's what we do best. So I think just weaving together everything and trying to get equal representation. However, there's certain times where if we're wearing certain for both Moana 1 and our future Moana worlds, when we're wearing certain ceremonial things, for me as a choreographer, I know I cannot touch those things. So it's also knowing when you can be innovative and when you need to respect the protocol. And I think that's something really important to note. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. So there's a lot of times where we're going to have very traditional elements, especially not to Samoa, where most of my ancestors come from. And that's when I know like I need to respect the protocol. So I think with this trust, the fact that we're called a trust, that tells you right there that, we're putting all of our mana into this.
Now we have a second part. Now you guys are also working in a live action. What will be the biggest difference me as an audience will be have on the live action versus this second part of Moana?
There's humans,
Yeah.
And you have the rock
Yeah.
in person.
which is my favorite. I love working in the world of our animation for Moana, but my whole life I've only worked on the human body. So I'm really, really, really excited for all of our Moana projects to surface because I think everything has something a little bit different to offer. And I think for us as Polynesians, that's going to be us for now until the end of time. There's so many different facets to us. So everyone's going to see us.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the most exciting moments for me was on the live action was being able to see like real people and to see our people. And I think there's a different type of joy I think that comes from seeing Moana 1 and Moana 2 the animated. Like I mean there's so many elements that cried through because we were just so excited to see the boats come to life. You know, all the things that animation can do and the magic of animation and what they bring. There's one type of joy I think that comes from that. And then there's a different type of joy I think that comes from seeing our actual people and some of them we know, and some of them we grew up with, and some of them live down the road. Some of them we see on TikTok, and and some of them have similar last names or the same last name. So I think it's so cool to be able to experience both of those different types of joy from seeing our people involved in projects like these.
Yeah, I really think with the elements of the real people in live action kind of takes it up a notch, and working on live action is almost like a reunion. It's a small community of Polynesian and even smaller within the performing arts. And so it really is kind of in being physically in the same space and working on the same project, it brings another element, and I would say just the more of a mana element of us all being in the same space and using our actual bodies to tell our stories and be represented on screen. So yeah.
Diana, Dionne, Grant, thank you so much for your time, but thank you also for educators. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ruben.
you.